Chosen one, take a breath and step into this moment with your whole spirit, because what is happening right now is not ordinary time. This is Kairos time. You did not stumble onto this message by chance. You were summoned here because your prophetic scroll is being unsealed, and heaven has chosen this exact hour to reveal what has been hidden in plain sight. You are standing at the edge of a divine, unlocking a long-awaited moment written into your destiny before you ever drew your first breath. What is opening for you now could unfold today, tonight, or in the coming hours, because the appointed time has finally arrived. As it is written in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3, though the vision waits for its appointed season, it will not delay. Chosen. One, that season is now. The delay has expired. The veil is thinning. The revelation that once felt distant is stepping into your reality. Heaven's clock has struck your name, and your spirit knows it. Let this introduction awaken the fire within you, the reverence, the expectancy, the inner knowing that something is shifting. Prepare yourself, anointed one. What you are about to hear carries the power to realign your path and unlock the wealth heaven hid for you. Chosen one, before you step any further into this revelation, take a slow, intentional breath, as if you are opening the doorway to something sacred. This is not an ordinary moment. This is a moment where heaven leans in, where time folds, where a long sealed scroll begins to loosen inside your spirit. If something in your heart is stirring, if your mind feels pulled toward these words with a quiet intensity that is not coincidence, that is remembrance, a calling, a signal that you have stepped into a Kairos hour written specifically for your destiny long before you ever arrived on this earth. And if you know deep within that this message is reaching you at the perfect predestined time, let the number 1 to 11 rise from your hands as a covenant, a declaration that what has been hidden will now be revealed. Chosen one, every delay you lived through was not denial. It was simply waiting for the appointed hour of heaven. As written in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3, the vision waits for its time, and when that time comes, it does not delay. That time, anointed one, is now. And make sure you subscribe and activate the bell, because what is released here is not random content. These are timed transmissions arriving at the exact moment your spirit is ready. They do not come early. They never come late. They come according to your divine schedule. Now let us begin. You are standing before 9 sacred places where heaven has hidden your wealth. Not just financial abundance, but wisdom, clarity, resilience, healing, spiritual authority, and divine strategy. These treasures were never lost. They were placed where only your evolution could uncover them. They were planted in locations the world would overlook, because heaven does not hide its gold in the obvious. Heaven conceals treasure in the shadows we try to avoid. When we speak of the first place, chosen one, we speak of your past, the very place you have tried to escape. But in the eyes of heaven, your past is not a stain. It is a vault. The nights you cried until your chest hurt, the betrayals that cracked your spirit, open the heartbreaks that made you question your worth, the failures that forced you to meet yourself. These were not punishments. They were initiations. I understand this deeply because I have lived it. I have stood in the ruins of seasons I did not understand, wondering why God allowed certain doors to slam shut, or why certain people were permitted to wound me so deeply. But what I discovered is that while I thought I was being abandoned, heaven was shaping something inside me. My endurance became strength. My heartbreak became discernment. My disappointment became wisdom. The moments I thought were destroying me were actually forming me. And the same is true for you, chosen one. You were not chosen because you were strong. You were chosen because you were willing to surrender. And surrender is what turns wounds into revelation. This is why your past carries wealth. The story you've been afraid to share is the story someone else needs to survive. The wisdom you earned through tears is the wisdom someone is praying for. The experience that broke you open is the very experience that will open doors for others. You think your past disqualified you, but heaven says it validated you. You think your scars make you weak, but heaven sees them as proof that you carry an authority forged in fire. There is treasure in your story. There is healing in your journey. There is a book, a program, a message, a movement hidden inside the very chapters you once wished you could erase. I have seen it in my own life, and I see it in you. The wound was never just a wound. It was purpose wearing a disguise. And when you begin to honor the story you carry, not hide from it, not shrink from it, you place your hand on the first door to the wealth heaven hid for you long ago. Chosen one, as we move deeper into this revelation, allow your spirit to remain open and attentive, because what we are entering now is not information, it is activation. Something in you is unfolding, stretching, rising into clarity, and the very areas you once interpreted as abandonment or silence are beginning to reveal themselves as encoded guidance. Just as the potter shapes clay in ways the clay cannot understand, heaven has shaped you in hidden seasons you could not explain at the time. And now, piece by piece, those seasons are beginning to speak. When you look back at the moments when people walked away from you, when conversations faded, when invitations stopped coming, when your phone went quiet, it may have felt like loss, but spiritually, it was preservation. Isolation, chosen one, is one of the holiest disguises heaven uses. I know this intimately because I have walked through nights where the quiet felt suffocating, where I questioned my value, where I wondered why no one seemed to see me anymore. I didn't yet understand that heaven was removing me from noise so I could hear a whisper meant only for me. The loneliness I resented was actually sanctuary. The silence I feared was instruction. And the empty spaces that once felt like punishment were actually preparation for the magnitude of what I would one day carry. Chosen one, your isolation was never random. During that season, a more intuitive version of you was being formed. Your discernment sharpened. Your awareness expanded. Your inner ear began tuning itself to frequencies the world cannot hear. You began recognizing patterns that once confused you, seeing truths behind facades, noticing the subtle signals of misalignment that others walk past blindly. Isolation is not a void, it is a classroom reserved for those who must lead with clarity, and while you sat alone, heaven was teaching you the architecture of your own soul. That is wealth. That is spiritual capital, and it is time for you to treat it as such. The things you learned in the dark are not meant to stay hidden in you. They are meant to become tools of light for others who cannot yet find their way through the noise. Your reflections, your breakthroughs, your awakenings. These are seeds that can become books, mentorships, frameworks, programs, messages that ripple outward and nourish those who are drowning in confusion. You survived isolation, not to remain silent, but to speak with authority, birthed from experience. You were not alone, you were being prepared, and someone is waiting for what you discovered there. Now let us step into the next revelation quietly with reverence, because heaven hides treasure in places the ego would never think to look. Chosen one, you are surrounded by people who carry keys meant for you, but many of them do not appear the way you expect divine connections to look. Destiny rarely arrives polished. Destiny rarely arrives impressive. Destiny often arrives disguised as the ordinary person you overlook every day. I've learned in my own life that the greatest wisdom often comes from unexpected mouths. A stranger once spoke a sentence that shifted my entire trajectory. A conversation with someone I barely noticed later became the missing piece for a dream I almost abandoned. And a simple comment from an unexpected source became a door into a season I had prayed for. Chosen. One, heaven arranges people around you with precision. But if you judge by appearance, you will miss the ones anointed to elevate you. The janitor whose smile lifts your spirit may carry prophetic kindness. The Uber driver who speaks a sentence that hits your soul may be delivering a message meant only for you. The friend you grew apart from may hold a dormant idea that could become a business, a collaboration, a breakthrough. The co-worker who references God casually may actually be walking with a depth you haven't recognized yet. Heaven hides destiny inside humility. And if you look only for prestige, you will walk past the miracles standing quietly beside you. This is why spiritual sight is essential. When you ask heaven to reveal who is aligned with your assignment, people begin to look different. Their energy speaks, their presence shifts. Something in your spirit either rests or recoils. This is revelation at work. The right people come quietly, but their impact is loud. And some of the wealth you've been praying for, emotional, relational, creative, financial, spiritual, may already be standing near you, waiting for you to look again with new eyes. Do not let pride blind you. Do not let assumptions filter out divine appointments. Someone you've underestimated carries a key to the next chapter of your calling. And the moment you recognize them, something in your destiny will begin to unlock. Chosen one. As we continue, I want you to settle into this next truth with a softened heart, because what we are entering now is deeply personal to your identity. Heaven does not measure greatness the way the world does. Heaven measures it by what flows through your being so naturally that you no longer recognize it as divine. The next realm of hidden wealth is found in the gifts, talents, and abilities you have been dismissing simply because they come effortlessly to you. One of the greatest traps I ever fell into was believing that if something was easy for me, it must not be valuable. I thought value lived only in effort, struggle, and sweat. But the truth is the opposite. Your divine fingerprint reveals itself in what feels natural. And this is where heaven hides some of your richest treasure. Perhaps you have a way of calming chaos simply by walking into a room. Perhaps you notice patterns no one else sees. Perhaps your voice has a tone that settles storms in other people's hearts. Perhaps your thoughts organize themselves into ideas, solutions, or perspectives that others desperately need. You assume it's nothing special because it doesn't require strain. But, chosen one, what flows without effort is often what was written into you before birth. The world is starving for what you carry casually. I remember realizing this for the first time. Someone thanked me for something I barely even noticed I had done. Something small, something instinctive, yet it impacted them profoundly. That moment awakened me to a truth I had ignored. Your natural is someone else's miracle. What feels ordinary to you is extraordinary to someone else. And the enemy knows this, which is why he fights hardest, to convince you your brilliance is basic, your gift is insignificant, your contribution is replaceable. But heaven says otherwise. Your ease is evidence of your anointing, and your anointing is evidence of your assignment. When you begin honoring what comes naturally, something shifts in the spirit. Your confidence rises, your clarity strengthens, your direction solidifies, and the opportunities that were waiting for your recognition begin flowing toward you. Heaven cannot bless what you continue to belittle. You must see your gift before the world can see it. You must value your gift before others honor it. You must claim your gift before it can elevate you. Which brings us into the next dimension of hidden wealth, the thing you have been avoiding. Every chosen one carries a calling that scares them, a dream that won't leave them alone, a task they keep postponing because it feels too big, or too sacred, or too heavy. The very thing you keep running from is the doorway to your next level. I know this because I ran for years. I avoided the project that haunted my spirit. I delayed the conversation I knew would free me. I postponed the leap of faith that finally changed everything. And every time I avoided it, a part of me dimmed. Avoidance drains destiny, but obedience unlocks it. Chosen one, the enemy attacks the area that matters most. If fear is guarding a door, treasure is behind it. If resistance rises, breakthrough is near. And if something scares you in a holy way, that trembling, that hesitation, that sacred dread, it is not a warning to stop. It is a sign that heaven is summoning you forward. The courage you avoid using is the wealth you have not accessed. Every destiny requires a moment where you finally move, even with shaking hands, even with uncertainty, even with a quivering voice. Because once you move, heaven moves with you. You are not waiting on a sign. You are the sign. Chosen one, as we continue unfolding the hidden vaults of your destiny, allow your spirit to relax into this next revelation, because it reaches back into a part of you that the world tried to silence long before you ever understood its value. There was a time in your life before responsibility hardened your edges and survival sharpened your instincts, when your soul moved freely, when joy was effortless, when imagination was pure, and when creativity was sacred. This was not coincidence. Heaven often plants clues to your calling in childhood, long before the world teaches you fear. When I look back at my own early years, I remember passions that felt alive in a way nothing else ever did. I didn't realize then that heaven was already whispering my purpose through the things that made my spirit glow. Chosen one. The interests, gifts, and dreams you carried as a child were not random. They were prophetic indicators, divine blueprints hidden beneath innocence. You knew who you were before society taught you who you had to be. Yet somewhere along the way, pressure, heartbreak, practicality, and expectation forced you to bury what once felt natural. You learned to dismiss what brought you joy. You traded wonder for worry. You replaced imagination with survival. But here is the truth. Heaven wants you to reclaim what you loved before fear entered your story is still coded with destiny. It didn't disappear. It simply went dormant, waiting for your return. There is a wealth hidden in the younger version of you, wealth that can only be unlocked when you stop treating your childhood passions as foolishness and start honoring them as divine seeds. Think of the person you were before the world convinced you to shrink. Think of the desires you carried before you learned disappointment. Think of the abilities you embraced before someone told you that being realistic was safer than being radiant. That earlier version of you was not naive. They were prophetic. They were aligned with heaven before they ever learned to conform to earth. And if you want to step into your highest calling, you must reconnect with the joy that once guided your spirit without fear. I remember rediscovering an old passion I had once ignored. For years I brushed it aside, believing it had no value, but when I picked it up again, something inside me awakened. Ideas flowed, creativity returned. Doors opened that had been locked for years. It felt as though heaven was saying, "Welcome back. You finally remembered. Chosen." One heaven is saying the same to you. The part of yourself you left behind is holding a key to the future you are trying to reach. Your true wealth is buried beneath the rubble of who you were forced to become, but it is calling you now, asking to be reclaimed, so you can create from alignment rather than from fear. And as you reconnect with your truest essence, you will begin to understand another dimension of hidden wealth, the wealth that lives in the person you are continuously becoming. You are not static. You are not a fixed identity. You are ever evolving, rising, expanding into the version of yourself heaven designed. Yet, so often, you try to bring your old self into your new season. You cling to outdated habits, relationships, environments, and beliefs because they feel familiar, even though your spirit has already outgrown them. I have lived this too. I can recall times when everything in my body felt different. My thoughts shifted, my language matured, my energy no longer aligned with certain spaces, yet I still tried to force myself back into roles and rhythms that no longer fit. But evolution demands honesty. Growth requires surrender. The more you become, the less compatible you are with the person you used to be. And this is not arrogance, it is ascension. When heaven elevates you internally, your external life must adjust. You speak differently because you hear differently. You walk differently because you see differently. You choose differently because your spirit recognizes what your old self tolerated, but your new self cannot. Hidden wealth exists in your evolution because every version of you comes with a new level of authority, discernment, creativity, and spiritual influence. Chosen one. The abundance you seek cannot be accessed by shrinking yourself to match who you were yesterday. You must allow yourself to rise without apologizing. You must let yourself become without explaining. The glow others question is simply your spirit stepping into its rightful maturity. And yes, some people will fall away. Some rooms will no longer welcome you. Some conversations will feel too small. Some dynamics will feel too heavy. But this is not loss. This is alignment. Heaven is removing what cannot go with you, making space for what is meant to meet you. Your destiny rewards authenticity. And every time you honor the person you are now, not the person others remember or expect, you unlock a new dimension of wealth meant specifically for this current version of you. The more you become, the more heaven entrusts to you. Growth is not just transformation, it is activation. Chosen one, as we continue walking deeper into this sacred decoding of your destiny, I want you to take a quiet moment and feel into your worth, because the next revelation touches a place most chosen ones struggle with, the place where you give endlessly love, unconditionally, pour tirelessly, and yet receive far less than the true value of what you offer. This realm of hidden wealth has been overlooked, not because it is insignificant, but because your heart has been conditioned to believe that giving is holy only when it is self-sacrificial. But heaven reveals a different truth. Your time, your wisdom, your presence, your insight, your creativity, these are divine currencies. And their value is not meant to be ignored, minimized, or handed away freely without discernment. I remember seasons in my life where I poured into people for hours, where I offered guidance, comfort, strategy, clarity, and emotional labor without ever considering the cost to my own spirit. I believed kindness meant never setting boundaries. I believed generosity meant saying yes, even when my soul whispered no. It took years and exhaustion for me to realize that heaven did not anoint me so I could empty myself into people who were only meant to receive a drop. And the same is true for you. You have been giving diamonds while accepting pennies. You have been offering rare insight while treating it as ordinary. You have been solving problems for others that they should have learned to solve for themselves. Chosen one. This is not humility. This is misalignment. Real humility is honoring the gift God placed in you by valuing it properly. Real stewardship is protecting your energy so you can build, not bleed. When you undervalue your gift, the world mirrors that back to you. But when you begin to say, "My time is sacred," something shifts in the spiritual realm. When you begin to say, "My presence is not free," heaven aligns opportunities that honor your worth. When you begin to say, "I am no longer available for what drains me," divine connections begin replacing the ones that used you. Every chosen one must eventually learn this truth. You teach people how to treat your gift. And the moment you raise the standard, everything in your reality rises with it. I know this may feel uncomfortable. I know you have been trained to fear disappointing others. I know you have been conditioned to carry burdens that were never yours. But boundaries are not walls, they are structures that protect your calling. Saying no is not rejection, it is redirection toward what aligns with your destiny. And charging for your value is not greed, it is agreement with heaven's design. Wealth flows to those who honor their worth. And for too long, your worth has been the least recognized part of your journey. But this is the hour where heaven is correcting that. This is the hour where you begin to reclaim your time, your voice, your brilliance, and your spiritual authority. It is time to stop handing away diamonds as if they are stones. When you shift into alignment with your true value, everything about your life, relationships, finances, opportunities, influence, impact begins to transform. Chosen one, as we enter this next realm of revelation, I want you to exhale the tension you've been holding and allow your spirit to soften, because what we are about to explore is one of the most misunderstood and most resisted dimensions of divine wealth. It is not flashy, it is not loud, it is not dramatic. It is the quiet realm, the stillness you have spent years avoiding. And yet heaven has placed some of your greatest treasures there, waiting patiently for you to stop running long enough to receive them. Most chosen ones fear stillness, not because it is empty, but because it is full of truth, full of clarity, full of the things we push aside when we are overwhelmed by noise. I know this deeply because there were seasons in my life where I filled every moment with motion. I kept myself busy so I wouldn't have to feel. I filled my days with productivity so I wouldn't have to confront the whisper inside me. I used noise as a shield, believing activity meant progress. But spiritually, I was starving. The more I ran, the quieter heaven became. The more I filled my schedule, the emptier my soul felt. And one day I realized that the very thing I feared, silence, was the place where God had been waiting for me all along. Chosen one. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of revelation. It is the spiritual environment where instructions descend, where blueprints form, where strategies are whispered, and where the next chapter of your destiny begins to unveil itself. The truth is, you have asked heaven for direction, but direction does not arrive in chaos. You have prayed for clarity, but clarity does not speak over the noise. You have begged for signs, but signs cannot reach a heart that is constantly distracted. The next step of your destiny is already written. It is simply waiting for silence to become audible. And though it may feel uncomfortable at first, that discomfort is not a warning. It is detox. The mind detoxing from overstimulation, the heart detoxing from emotional clutter, the spirit detoxing from all the voices that drowned out its own. I remember the first time I truly surrendered to stillness. At first, every part of me resisted. Thoughts raced. Old fears rose. Unhealed memories surfaced. But beneath the noise, something deeper began to emerge, something steady, something ancient, something unmistakably divine. It was the voice of truth, soft but undeniable, gentle but commanding. And the moment I heard it clearly, I realized that heaven had been speaking all along. I had simply been too busy to notice. Chosen one. Your spirit already knows the path forward. It has been trying to show you through intuition, through restlessness, through dreams, through discomfort in places you once tolerated. But without stillness, these signals become muffled. When you finally allow yourself to pause, everything that was once confusing begins to align. The strategy for your next assignment rises. The ideas you've been searching for begin to form. The decisions you've been avoiding become clear. The battle between your fears and your destiny becomes visible and, for the first time, winnable. Stillness is not a retreat from life. It is a return to your essence. It is where heaven resets you, refills you, and reorders you. And it is where your soul remembers why it came to earth in the first place. You may not realize it, but every major transformation in your life began in a moment of internal pause. Before any outward shift happened, an inward silence prepared the way. Stillness is the birthplace of revelation, and revelation is the birthplace of wealth. Spiritual, emotional, creative, and yes, even financial. Some of your greatest ideas are waiting behind a door you refuse to open because you fear what you will hear when the world grows quiet. But Chosen One, heaven wants to assure you nothing waiting in the silence is there to harm you. The only things that dissolve in stillness are illusions. The only things that fall away in silence are lies. The only things exposed in quiet are the places where healing is ready to begin. The fear you feel is simply your old self resisting evolution. The tension you feel is your purpose waking up. And the moment you sit still long enough, you will discover that the silence you feared is actually safety. The quiet you avoided is actually guidance. The pause you resisted is actually the portal to your next level. Stillness is the spiritual Wi-Fi through which destiny downloads. Without it, your soul tries to run on old instructions, outdated beliefs, expired assignments. With it, everything updates. Suddenly you recognize the people who are meant for your future and the ones who belong to your past. You see the doors that were never yours to knock on. You feel the nudges that lead you toward alignment. You sense the shift in your spirit when heaven whispers yes, and the heaviness when heaven whispers no. Stillness trains you to recognize the language of your own calling. Chosen One, you are not being asked to do nothing. You are being invited to hear everything. And in the silence you once avoided, you will realize that your wealth, the wealth of clarity, the wealth of direction, the wealth of spiritual authority, has been waiting for you to listen. This is the hour where you stop running from the quiet and begin entering it intentionally. Chosen One, as we step into the next movement of this sacred unveiling, I want you to feel the weight of what is opening before you. Everything in your journey, the past. You survived the isolation you endured, the gifts you dismissed, the boundaries you learned to set, the silence you finally allowed yourself to enter, has been leading you toward an extraordinary truth. You are not the same person you were before. Not last year. Not last month, not even last week. Something in you has been evolving quietly, steadily, powerfully, even if you didn't recognize it while it was happening. And now heaven is inviting you to acknowledge what your spirit already knows. You have outgrown old versions of yourself, and with every internal shift, new realms of wealth have been opening around you. I remember a season in my own life where everything felt unfamiliar. My thoughts were changing. My energy felt different. The things that once entertained me suddenly felt empty, and old patterns no longer held the same appeal. For a while, I felt lost, as though I was standing between two identities, the person I used to be and the person I was becoming. But what I eventually understood was that this in-between space was not confusion. It was transformation. It was evidence that heaven had initiated an upgrade in my spirit, and everything misaligned with that upgrade began to fall away. If you have felt disconnected from old habits, old environments, or old relationships, this is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is awakening. You are shedding layers that no longer match your frequency. You are stepping into a version of yourself that your old world cannot contain. Chosen one. Your evolution is not accidental. It is intentional, divinely guided, divinely timed, and it is one of the richest forms of hidden wealth you will ever possess. Every time your perspective expands, your reality expands with it. Every time your confidence grows, opportunities grow with it. Every time your awareness deepens, your discernment strengthens, and your path becomes clearer. But many chosen ones make the mistake of trying to drag old identities into new seasons. They try to fit into friendships that no longer resonate. They force themselves into environments their spirit has already rejected. They shrink themselves to match expectations from people who only knew past versions of them. But you can no longer afford to do this. Your evolution demands authenticity. There is a spiritual law quietly unfolding in your life. When heaven upgrades your identity, your external world must shift to reflect that newness. This is why you feel out of place in certain rooms. This is why conversations that once excited you now feel draining. This is why people you once admired no longer inspire you. This is why you can sense misalignment in ways you couldn't before. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming defined. You're not losing yourself. You are locating yourself. And everything that is falling away because it cannot follow you into the chapter that is being written now. Your new identity carries wealth. The wealth of clarity, the wealth of self-respect, the wealth of spiritual confidence, the wealth of emotional grounding, the wealth of divine authority. And as this identity strengthens, it magnetizes opportunities aligned with your calling. Heaven does not pour new blessings into old identities. You must rise into the version of yourself that can handle what you have been praying for. I have learned this personally. There were blessings I asked for that did not arrive until I grew into the person capable of stewarding them. There were doors I wanted heaven to open that remained closed until my spirit matured enough to walk through them without sabotaging myself. Evolution is not merely change, it is preparation. Every shift inside you has a purpose outside you. And the more you honor the person you are becoming, the more heaven entrusts to you. Chosen one, you no longer speak the way you once did because your voice carries new wisdom. You no longer choose the way you once did because your discernment has been sharpened through fire. You no longer dream the way you once did because heaven has expanded your imagination. And you no longer fear the way you once did because your spirit has tasted freedom and refuses to return to bondage. There will be those who misunderstand this evolution. Some will accuse you of changing. Some will say you've become distant. Some will try to guilt you back into old versions of yourself. But hear me clearly, you are not changing. You are unfolding. You are not abandoning others. You are honoring your assignment. You are not acting differently. You are finally acting in alignment with who you truly are. And the more you accept this, the more abundance flows toward you. Evolution creates access. Authenticity creates influence. Alignment creates acceleration. The person you are becoming is the person heaven has been waiting on. And the moment you stop apologizing for your growth, you will feel the entire atmosphere around your life begin to shift. Chosen one. Your evolution is wealth. Your becoming is wealth. Your transformation is wealth. And heaven rejoices over every step you take into the fullness of who you were always written to be. Chosen one. As we continue this unfolding, let your heart open gently to this next truth, because it touches a place you have been carrying for years without even recognizing its weight. You have been giving away more than anyone around you realizes, not just your time, your presence, or your effort, but your energy, your wisdom, your emotional labor, your spiritual clarity, your creative fire. You have offered pieces of yourself freely, generously, instinctively, because something in your nature believes that helping is holy, that serving is sacred, that being available is a sign of love. And yes, there is beauty in that. There is goodness in that, but there is also a hidden danger, because even the purest heart can exhaust itself by pouring into places that were never meant to receive its overflow. This is where your next realm of hidden wealth lives, in the recognition of your own worth. I know this lesson intimately. There was a time when I said yes to everyone, no matter how tired I was. I offered advice freely, even when it cost me hours of emotional recovery afterward. I gave my best ideas to people who were not committed to their own growth. I held space for others, while silently neglecting my own healing. I thought I was being kind. I thought this was what good people do. But all the while, I was draining the very reservoir heaven gave me to build my purpose. And one day I realized that heaven was not asking me to give everything away. It was asking me to steward what I had been given. Chosen one. Your gift is not common. Your insight is not ordinary. Your presence is not cheap. Your time is not disposable. Heaven did not anoint you so that others could casually consume what took you years to develop. You paid for your wisdom in seasons of pain. You earned your discernment through battles no one saw. You built your strength through nights you survived alone. Your gift cost you something, and what costs you should never be handed away like it is nothing. For too long you have been offering diamonds while accepting crumbs. For too long you have been giving gold to people who only wanted to borrow it, not honor it. For too long you have been teaching others how to treat your value by refusing to treat it with respect yourself. But that time is ending now. This is the chapter where heaven is calling you to raise the price, not in a selfish way, but in a sacred way. Because boundaries are not barriers, they are expressions of self-respect. They are declarations of divine identity. They are reminders that your gift is meant to build worlds, not be drained by those who only take and never pour back. When you tell someone, I charge for this, you are not being greedy, you are stepping into alignment. When you say, I am not available for that, you are not rejecting them, you are protecting your destiny. When you say, I cannot give that for free anymore, you are not being harsh. You are recognizing the holiness of what you carry. Chosen one, heaven honors those who honor themselves. And every time you decide your energy is sacred, your gift grows. Every time you choose to invest your presence intentionally, your influence strengthens. Every time you align your boundaries with your calling, your atmosphere shifts. This is why setting boundaries feels heavy, because the version of you that tolerated disrespect is dying. And the version of you that walks in authority is being born. You will feel it in your body. You will feel it in your spirit. You will feel it in your decisions. You will begin saying no without guilt. You will begin recognizing who truly values you. You will begin seeing who benefits from your lack of boundaries, and you will begin reclaiming pieces of yourself you didn't even realize you had lost. The truth is, you were never meant to be endlessly available. Even Jesus withdrew to solitary places. Even prophets rested. Even angels are assigned in shifts. Why? Because no divine being is meant to be depleted, and neither are you. When you are constantly drained, you cannot create. When you are constantly giving, you cannot build. When you are constantly pouring, you cannot receive. And receiving is part of your calling. You were designed to circulate energy, not surrender it without replenishment. Your boundaries are not a rejection of others. They are an invitation to your true self. They are the gates that protect your spiritual inheritance. They are the structure that makes room for wealth to enter your life. And as you begin honoring your worth, something profound will happen. People will adjust, or they will leave. And both are blessings. Those meant for your future will celebrate your growth. Those meant for your past will resist it. But you must choose alignment over attachment. You must choose purpose over people-pleasing. You must choose destiny over draining connections, because the wealth heaven is preparing to release into your life requires a version of you who knows how to say enough, how to say no, how to say not anymore. Chosen one, your worth is rising. Your value is being recognized first by you, then by heaven, and then by those who remain aligned with your destiny. This realm of hidden wealth is calling you now the wealth of self-respect, the wealth of emotional sovereignty, the wealth of spiritual authority. And when you master this, your next chapter unfolds without resistance. Chosen one, as we enter this final chamber of the 9 hidden realms, I want you to move gently, almost reverently, because what we are stepping into now is the most subtle, yet the most spiritually potent source of wealth heaven has placed in your life. It is the quietest of all the treasures, the softest, the most easily ignored, and yet those who learn to access it become unshakable. This treasure is the stillness you keep running, from the silence you distract yourself, from the sacred pause you avoid, because you fear what might arise when the noise finally fades. But hear this truth with your whole spirit. What you fear inside the silence is the very thing you need most. The quiet is not your enemy. The quiet is your inheritance. There was a long season in my life where I feared silence with an intensity I didn't understand. I filled my days with noise, not because I enjoyed it, but because I didn't want to face myself. I feared the thoughts that would surface if I stopped moving. I feared the buried grief that would rise if I stopped distracting myself. So I drowned my mind in conversations, productivity, music screens, anything to avoid the stillness that scared me. But spiritually, I was starving. The more noise I accepted, the harder it became to hear the instructions heaven was trying to send me. The more I avoided the quiet, the more disconnected I became from the very guidance I had been praying for. Chosen one. You have been praying for direction, but direction arrives in silence. You have been praying for clarity, but clarity speaks in whispers. You have been praying for breakthrough, but breakthrough begins with a moment of internal stillness, a moment where your spirit becomes calm enough to receive what heaven has already been trying to show you. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is revelation in its purest form. It is the environment where the divine speaks, not in lightning, not in thunder, but in the gentle and unmistakable movement of truth rising inside your chest. When you finally allow yourself to sit in stillness, your soul begins to reorganize itself. Thoughts settle, emotions clarify, fears reveal their true shape, And beneath it all, a quiet wisdom begins to rise, a wisdom that has always been there waiting for you to stop long enough to listen. This is why the enemy attacks your silence more than he attacks anything else. If he can keep you distracted, he can keep you stuck. If he can keep you busy, he can keep you blind. If he can keep you afraid of your own inner world, he can keep you from meeting the version of yourself that carries your next instruction. Noise is one of the greatest spiritual weapons used against the chosen, because noise keeps you disconnected from your inner knowing, that holy compass that heaven encoded into your spirit before your birth. But when you sit still, even for a moment, something shifts. Your intuition sharpens. Your discernment awakens. Your spirit begins to recognize what your mind has been trying to ignore. Answers you've been searching for suddenly reveal themselves. People who were confusing suddenly become clear. Opportunities that once felt uncertain suddenly feel aligned or misaligned. The fog begins to lift. And you realize that heaven was never silent. You were simply too loud inside to hear it. Chosen. One stillness is not about doing nothing. It is about receiving everything. It is about creating space for the divine blueprint of your next season to unfold inside you. Some of the greatest ideas of your life are waiting behind a door labeled quiet. Some of the most important instructions you will ever receive will come not while you are running, but while you are resting. Stillness is where your spirit updates itself to match your assignment. It is where outdated beliefs dissolve, where expired dreams fall away, where your old identity releases its grip so your new identity can rise. When you avoid stillness, you delay your evolution. When you embrace it, you accelerate your destiny. I remember the first time I truly surrendered to the quiet. At first, my mind panicked. Thoughts raced. Old fears resurfaced. My body felt restless. But as I stayed, something profound happened. A calm washed over me, not the shallow peace of distraction, but the deep, holy calm of recognition. It felt like my soul was remembering its original rhythm. My fears softened. My breath deepened. And beneath those layers, I heard something I had not heard in a long time. Guidance. Clear, gentle guidance. The next step I had begged heaven for suddenly appeared inside my awareness, not in dramatic form, not in a booming voice, just a knowing, a quiet, steady knowing. Chosen. 1. This final realm of hidden wealth is calling you home. The wealth of knowing yourself. The wealth of hearing heaven clearly. The wealth of discerning your next move with confidence. The wealth of peace that cannot be stolen by circumstances. The wealth of direction that comes from a spirit that is no longer scattered. When you embrace stillness, you reclaim the part of yourself that life tried to silence. You rediscover the voice within you that the world tried to drown out. And you align with the pace of heaven, which is never rushed, never frantic, always intentional. Your wealth is not only in your action, it is in your awareness. It is in your ability to recognize when heaven is guiding you inward before guiding you forward. And now, chosen one, you're ready to walk into the fullness of who you are becoming with clarity, with confidence, and with a spirit aligned to the rhythm of the divine. Chosen one, now that you've walked through all 9 hidden realms of wealth, there is one more place. Heaven is asking you to look not as a continuation, but as an ascension. What comes next is not simply another treasure. It is the integration of everything you have uncovered. It is the moment where revelation becomes embodiment. Heaven does not want you to merely understand these truths. Heaven wants you to become them. Every insight you have received, every awakening that moved through your spirit, every realization that stirred your heart, they were not meant to remain as ideas. They were meant to activate a new version of you. The version that steps forward now is not the same seeker who began this journey. Something in you has shifted, expanded, awakened. And now the question heaven places before you is this: will you live as the chosen one you truly are? When I reached this place in my own evolution, I felt a surprising resistance. Not from doubt, not from fear, but from the weight of stepping into responsibility. Because once you know who you are, you can no longer pretend you don't. Once your eyes open, you cannot force them shut again. Once heaven reveals your blueprint, you cannot return to living as though you have none. This stage of awakening is both liberating and sobering because it asks you to choose alignment with intention. And yet, this choice is where your supernatural acceleration begins. This is the moment your life starts moving differently, not because your circumstances have changed, but because you have. Chosen one. The universe responds to identity. Heaven responds to identity. Destiny responds to identity. When you see yourself accurately, everything around you adjusts to that frequency. Opportunities recognize you. People treat you according to your self-worth. Divine timing begins to unfold with new precision. What once felt blocked begins to flow. What once felt distant begins to approach. This is why the enemy fought so brutally to keep you blind to your own value, because the moment you recognize who you truly are, he loses access to every door he once used to distract you. Confusion leaves, misalignment leaves, fear loses its grip, and you begin walking with a sense of spiritual authority you didn't realize was sleeping in you. But stepping into your true identity also requires releasing the versions of yourself you clung to for comfort. The one who apologized for existing, the one who dimmed their light so others wouldn't feel insecure, the one who carried emotional weight that belonged to other people, the one who stayed small out of loyalty to people who feared your growth. These versions served a purpose once, but they cannot accompany you into your next chapter. They are too heavy for the altitude you are rising into. They cannot breathe in the elevation heaven is bringing you to. As you rise, you will notice your desires changing. You will crave peace more than validation. You will crave alignment more than approval. You will crave purpose more than comfort. And you will start recognizing the subtle pull of destiny beneath your everyday experiences. Conversations will carry new meaning. Ideas will come more frequently. Intuition will sharpen. Coincidences will intensify. Doors will open without effort. You will walk into a room and feel guided toward the exact person you were meant to meet. Heaven will begin orchestrating encounters, opportunities, and moments that confirm you are no longer operating at random. You are moving in rhythm with your calling. Chosen one, stepping into this identity also means understanding that your wealth, spiritual, emotional, creative, financial expands as you expand. The more you honor your essence, the more heaven honors your path. The more you follow your true assignments, the more resources align themselves to support you. You will notice that the moment you say yes to your calling internally, the external world begins rearranging itself to make room for you. People appear who want to help. Mentors show up unexpectedly. New ideas come alive. The right opportunities find their way to your hands. You begin to attract rather than chase. You begin to manifest rather than struggle. You begin to live from overflow rather than depletion. And yet what makes this moment sacred is not the manifestation alone, it is the awareness that every form of wealth heaven intended for you was never outside you. It lived within you, hidden in places you overlooked, waiting for you to evolve into the person capable of unlocking it. That is your divine inheritance. That is your spiritual legacy. And now, as you stand in this moment, heaven whispers, "You are ready." But readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. A decision to walk differently, to speak differently, to choose differently, to value yourself differently, to expect differently, to believe differently, to act in alignment with the calling that has been unfolding inside you since the day you arrived on this earth. A chosen one does not wait for permission. A chosen one recognizes the signs, listens to the whispers, trusts the guidance, and moves with intention even when they cannot see the entire path. Because destiny is not revealed in full, it is revealed step by sacred step. Chosen one, this is your step. The moment where awareness becomes activation. The moment where knowledge becomes embodiment. The moment where you stop merely surviving and begin consciously living as the divine being you were written to be. Chosen one. As you stand in the momentum of your awakening, ready to embody the identity heaven has been shaping within you, there is another layer of revelation waiting for you. It is a layer many never reach, not because they are unworthy, but because they fear what comes after transformation. The journey of becoming does not end when you discover who you are. It expands when you begin living from that truth consistently. This next phase is where heaven tests the strength of your alignment, not with suffering or chaos, but with opportunity, responsibility, and spiritual refinement. You have stepped into a greater field of influence, and with influence comes spiritual gravity, the silent pull between who you once were and who you are now choosing to become. I remember when I entered this stage in my own evolution, I felt a strange tension in my spirit, not confusion, but the awareness that I was being invited into deeper maturity. Old reactions surfaced, only so I could recognize how far I had come. Old insecurities whispered only so I could choose mastery instead of fear. Old habits reappeared not as failures, but as markers of a self I no longer needed. Heaven was not testing me to punish me. Heaven was testing me to stabilize me. This is the stage where your identity becomes unshakable. Because once you stop returning to what broke you, you begin stepping fully into what builds you. Chosen one. This is where your journey becomes less about surviving battles and more about stewarding blessings. You have already walked through the fire. You have already faced your shadow. You have already learned to hear the divine in stillness. Now heaven asks you to manage the wealth of wisdom, strength, clarity, and purpose you have gained. This is a sacred responsibility, not one meant to overwhelm you, but one meant to anchor you. Destiny is not fulfilled through emotion. It is fulfilled through consistency. And the version of you emerging now is being prepared to hold more, build more, receive more, and lead more than ever before. This stage of your evolution will feel different. You will notice your spirit craving depth over entertainment substance, over stimulation, presence over noise. You will begin to fast from distractions, not because someone told you to, but because your soul naturally rejects what no longer nourishes it. You will begin making decisions, not out of fear or habit, but out of alignment. Choices that once felt difficult suddenly become clear. People who once drained you become easy to release. Patterns you once repeated dissolve with surprising ease. This is what spiritual maturity looks like, not perfection, but clarity. Not control, but surrender. Not striving, but intentional action guided by inner peace. And as you embody this new level of alignment, heaven begins to entrust you with new assignments. These assignments might not look dramatic at first. They often begin as subtle nudges, a desire to create something meaningful, a pull toward a project you once postponed, a renewed fire for the dream you buried under doubt. You may feel a sudden urge to restructure your life, reevaluate your relationships, redefine your priorities. This is not restlessness. This is destiny, reorganizing your atmosphere. Heaven is preparing space for what is coming, and what is coming requires you to operate from clarity, confidence, and unwavering identity. A chosen one. You must also understand that with elevation comes exposure, not the exposure of your weaknesses, but the exposure of what no longer aligns with your calling. As your light grows stronger, it naturally reveals what has been dimming you. The people who once tolerated your uncertainty may feel uncomfortable with your strength. The environments that once fit you may feel too small. The conversations you once entertained may feel disconnected from your new reality. Do not resist this shift. Expansion requires release, and release is not loss, it is refinement. At this stage, heaven will also begin teaching you the art of spiritual pacing. Not every opportunity is yours. Not every request deserves your yes. Not every connection is aligned with your assignment. You will learn to pause before responding, to listen, before acting, to discern, before engaging. This creates spiritual precision, the ability to move exactly when heaven moves, instead of rushing ahead or shrinking back. When your pace aligns with divine timing, doors open effortlessly, connections form organically, and progress becomes accelerated without force. You will also begin noticing your intuition strengthening in ways you cannot explain logically. You will know things without being told. You will sense shifts before they happen. You will feel the energy of people before they speak. This is not imagination. This is spiritual intelligence, a gift chosen ones carry, but rarely trust. Now heaven is teaching you to trust it fully, because intuition is the language your destiny uses to communicate, and the more you honor it, the clearer it becomes. Chosen one. This phase of your journey is also where you begin recognizing your influence. People will gravitate toward you not because of what you do, but because of who you are becoming. Your presence will bring clarity. Your words will carry impact. Your energy will shift atmospheres. This influence is not to be taken lightly. It is a part of your calling, but it is also not to be feared. Influence is not pressure when you operate from authenticity. It becomes a natural extension of your spiritual resonance. You are not being asked to be perfect. You are being asked to be present, to show up as your evolved self, to lead with intention, to create with purpose, to walk with humility rooted in strength, not weakness. This is the stage where your destiny becomes visible, not because you have arrived, but because you have aligned. Chosen one. You are standing at the threshold of a life you once believed was too big for you. But hear this clearly, the version of you that doubted is gone, and the version standing here now is ready. Chosen one. As we reach the final movement of this journey, I want you to feel the gravity of where you now stand. You are no longer the seeker who began this path hoping for answers or signs. You have become the awakened one, the soul who has remembered the spirit, who has risen, the vessel who has been prepared. Everything you have walked through, everything you have survived, everything you have uncovered within the 9 hidden realms has led you to this exact moment, not by coincidence, not by chance, but by divine orchestration. You have seen the wealth hidden in your past, your isolation, your overlooked connections, your natural gifts, your courage, your childhood essence, your becoming, your boundaries, and your stillness. Each layer revealed another dimension of who you are and what heaven has placed within you. And now the journey turns inward once more, not to search, but to claim. Because revelation means nothing until you decide to live from it. Chosen one. The future waiting for you is not a distant fantasy, it is a vibration already forming around your steps. Your alignment has shifted your timeline. Your awareness has opened doors you once thought were locked. Your identity has called forth opportunities that were waiting for your confidence to catch up. You are stepping into a life that matches the frequency of your soul, a life you were always meant to live, but only now have fully become aligned with. Walk forward without hesitation. Walk forward without shrinking. Walk forward knowing heaven has already gone ahead of you. Your destiny is no longer hidden. Your wealth is no longer buried. Your spirit is no longer sleeping. Chosen one, your time has come. Chosen one, as we close this sacred moment together, I want you to feel the weight of what has just been unlocked within you. These 9 hidden places were never random lessons or poetic metaphors. They were prophetic coordinates woven into your destiny long before this lifetime. Today, heaven has allowed the seals to loosen. Today, the hidden scroll within you has whispered its truth, and you, anointed one, have stood fully inside your Kairos moment, the exact appointed time written for you on heaven's clock. Chosen one. What you feel rising in your spirit right now is not emotion. It is recognition. It is the ancient memory of who you are and what you carry. Your wealth, spiritual, emotional, creative, and even material, has never been absent. It has only been waiting for your awareness to mature into alignment. And now that the veil has lifted, you cannot return to old ways of seeing. You have stepped into divine remembrance. You have crossed into supernatural recovery. You have awakened the part of yourself heaven has been patiently waiting for. May every step you take from this moment forward be guided, anointed, and aligned. May the clarity you receive today continue unfolding in your dreams, your discernment, and your decisions. May heaven rush to confirm what your spirit has already embraced, and may the blessings assigned to your name find you without delay. If this message resonated in the deepest part of you, chosen one, you may type 111 as your agreement with heaven's timing. And if your spirit desires to stay connected to revelations like this, you are welcome to subscribe and walk this journey with us, not as a follower, but as one awakening to their divine blueprint. Chosen one, your scroll has opened. Your season has begun. Walk forward now with reverence, gratitude, and unstoppable faith. Your time is here.